right. Welcome,
Do I
everyone.
go
Good
ahead with the
morning.
recording?
I just did, so we're recording right now. So welcome to the third and last part of this section on interspirituality. And we do have an opening song, but I wanted to just remind us what we're doing because, hey, it's 3 Sundays in a row. Not everybody was at all the Sundays, and it's hard to remember, right? Thank goodness there's only 3. But I was really pleased that you were resonating. I've gotten feedback from the people at meditation and on the Wednesdays that some of the messages in here really are, make you question things or become aware of things in a new way. And that's the whole point. Interspirituality, which is a word coined by Wayne Teasdale and summarized in his book, A Mystic Heart, is really not a new religion. It's a distillation of the commonalities across the world's faith traditions that comes from his lifetime of work in the parliament of the world's religions and the interfaith movement. And it's meant in our context here at Unity Center in Montreal to really deepen our own awareness. It's not different. Hopefully you're not finding any contradictions with anything that you already know and believe, or things like the Unity principles, but another lens, another viewpoint. So let me just share my screen here. And I just have a little reminder slide. There we go. A couple of slides here. So this is the book, A Mystic Heart. And I also want to give credit to Diane Burke, who's the founder of my seminary, which was One Spirit, and also the leader of a workshop that I finished this summer about pro-social spirituality. And this was one of the pieces of it, the 9 elements of a mature, universal interspirituality, regardless of your religion and your beliefs, or no religion at all. As we grow up and deepen on our path, these 9 elements grouped into 3 buckets, which is what we've been talking about the last 3 weeks. These are elements that hopefully feel familiar, but maybe you've been able to go a little bit deeper. Our first week, we did interconnectedness, or Thich Nhat Hanh would call that interbeing. And that's our being aware of our connection with not just every human, but and not just every sentient being, but every being, every living thing, elements, rocks, animals, winged ones, finned ones, 4-leggeds, 2-leggeds, our fellow humans, the cosmos, and of course, planet Earth herself. And then there's the inner transformation 3, our ability to grow into being accepting of ourselves and others' foibles and imperfections. And that can show up in the form of humility, mature self-knowledge, doing the work, doing our inner work of growing up. Also having a regular...
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
We cannot see the screen. Yeah, but we cannot see the screen, or some of us cannot see the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just turn that off. So you don't have to worry about seeing it. How's that? Raise your hand if you could not see the screen. No, you could see the screen. All right. Well, so let me just finish up the thought here. So interconnectedness, 1 bucket, inner transformation, another bucket, and social engagement, which is today's topic. And this is about how we live and how our presence shows up in the world. And this aligns with Unity's principle 5, which is about putting into practice the truth of who we are so that it actually shows up in form. So a person, a quote from like the Unity page about this 5th principle is, a Unity person must also live the truth that he or she knows. So it's not just enough to know it or feel it in our hearts, but we also express it. And I think of this not like a task to add to the list of things I have to do every day, but as a natural expression of our divine being, like the daily word said today. Divine love flows through us. I am a divine being, wondrously and magnificently alive. And that being alive shows up in our words, our actions, and our presence. And that's what this last set of 3 that we'll talk about today is really about. Social engagement. How do we talk to people? What do we do when we're walking around? How do we spend our attention? How do we spend our time? How do we spend our money? And it's not just about spending, but it's receiving. The reciprocal relationship of giving and receiving is really what that's about. So I'm going to pause the recording for a minute, and we are going to listen to a song. And then we're going to read the words together after the song. So in this song, just there's no video, so I invite you to use it as a little meditation and just close your eyes and receive the sound of this song. Make sure my sound is on so that you can all hear it. Thumbs up if you can hear it. Thank you.
You say that in times like these, you're driven down to your knees, looking around, grieving what peace there was. You promised yourself you would work for a world of good, and look at you now, wondering what good it does. No lost hope, no violent point of view can erase all of the good you do. There's nothing as dark as night.
Sorry about that. Let's start over.
You say that in times like these, you're driven down to your knees, looking around, grieving what peace there was. You promised yourself you would work for a world of good, and look at you now, wondering what good it does. No lost hope, no violent point of view can erase all of the good you do. There's nothing as dark as night, but nothing so strong as light. And here is the choice, to let it burn out or bright. In a world where the fear and force have buried the silent source, can you deny the need for a light like yours? No fast pace, no jaded attitude can erase all of the good you do. If someone has left his wrath on everything in his path, take taking the wealth and leaving his trash behind. Will you be peace or pride? Can you at last decide? There's no one to fight, we are the same inside. So go home and get some rest. There's many more miles and tests, all about love. What if it comes to be all that we have left? No dark place, no debt and no abuse can erase all of the good you do.
There's a lot of words to that song, so I thought it would be useful after you let it wash over you if we actually read the words to each other. And I heard Letitia's in the sanctuary today. Hello, Leticia. I invite you, if you are willing, to come up to the laptop on the podium and just read these words to us. And we hear them in a different way when they're read in your voice. Beautiful. Hello there. Can you see the words okay? Do I need to make them bigger? Here we go. How's that?
I don't see them. No. I don't see them.
We
We don't see,
we
and
hear you.
You don't see the words.
no, I think our screen is a bit frozen. Yeah,
Yeah, we don't see your screen. No.
Ah, okay. Marjorie, would you like to read them?
It's Chris, yeah.
Where would I find them? I'm
Okay,
not
it's
seeing them
something
right
that
now.
Yeah, it's probably gonna come back.
Let me reshare. Let me reshare here.
Yes.
Maybe Letitia can see them now.
Yes, I can see them now.
Wonderful.
Okay.
The good you do. You say that in times like these, you're driven down to your knees, looking around, grieving what peace there was. You promise yourself you would work for a world of good. Look at you now, wondering what good it does. No lost hope, no violent point of view can erase all of the good you do. There's nothing as dark as night, but nothing so strong as light. Here is the choice, to let it burn out of bright in a world where the fear and force have buried the silent source. Can you deny the need for a light like yours? No fast pace, no jaded attitude can erase all of the good you do. If someone has left his wrath on everything in his path, taking the wealth and leaving his trash behind, will you be at peace or pride? Can you at least decide? There is no one to fight, we are all the same inside. So go home and get some rest. There's many more miles and tests, all about love. What if it comes to be all that we have left? No dark place, no debt, and no abuse can erase all of the good you do. Christine Kane from Right Out of Nowhere.
Thank you, Leticia. It was beautiful to hear that read in your voice. And I think most of you will agree that it sounds different when someone reads it than when you hear it in the music. So you've done both together. So take a minute to just go inside briefly and just touch in with yourself. What resonated with you from that theme of nothing can erase all the good that you do? And maybe this is just a reflection. You don't have to share anything. Just feel it and just notice what came up. And let me share a little bit of information about each of these elements. So there's 3 elements, there's 9 altogether. So these are the last 3, the set of 3. And one of element 8 is selfless service and compassionate action. And while I read this, just feel free to see what strikes you. Element 8 is closely related and naturally grows out of our solidarity with all living beings, our interbeing. And the deeper we become rooted in that experience of our interconnectedness with all life, the more we respond to suffering wherever we encounter it. We notice it more, perhaps. And it becomes kind of our own moral imperative and perhaps an automatic, natural response. Just as our body naturally mobilizes healing energy when we're injured, for example, our response is natural to suffering among the planet, our fellow beings, our neighbors, our friends, our family, and our own self. So, an example would be if you cut your knee, your body automatically mobilizes its healing response, doesn't it? It automatically starts to heal. Yes, you can put a Band-Aid on it, maybe some Neosporin or something, but the body naturally starts its healing response. So we are part of that healing response of the planet and of humanity. Just our presence, our being, our words, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. It's a natural thing that flows out of our divine being. That's our compassion. And compassion is more than just a feeling of care and concerns for others' well-being, but it's a feeling that we can choose to translate into action in some way so that our compassion can realize its full transformative potential. And that's who we are as divine beings. So in the world around us and with ourselves. Thich Nhat Hanh says that the word compassion is a verb. It's action. Compassion is a verb. And that brings us to the other dimension of this element, and that's engaging in selfless service. In Sanskrit, selfless service is seva, S-E-V-A, seva service. That's service that's performed without any expectation of a result or a reward for ourselves performing the selfless service. We give without needing, wanting, or expecting anything in return. So I'm sure that there are times when you are just naturally evolving into seva service, selfless service. So that's element 8. Element 9 is embodying and empowering the prophetic voice. And Marjorie asked me about this at the Wednesday class last week. So with element 9, embodying and empowering the prophetic voice, our focus shifts from ourselves and the people around us to the systemic. And we can look to the work of Martin Luther King as an example. He expressed this as clearly by saying, true compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It's not haphazard or superficial. It comes to see that an edifice that produces beggars needs restructuring. And Archbishop Desmond Tutu said it this way: there comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out where they're falling in. So the function of the prophetic voice is to be willing to speak truth to power. And that doesn't mean you have to go out and be an activist, but it's to name or bear witness or to engage, or all three, in the struggle to change these systems wherever they exist in some way. It's the dimension of our expression of compassion that seeks not only to alleviate the suffering, but address the systematic causes. And we can express this form of compassion as selfless service, save us service. We can express it in our own way, based on our own gifts and abilities and our talents and our skills. We may choose to even stretch our comfort zone in this realm of selfless service. But that's not necessarily what's asked of us, right? Putting it into action in some way is the point. It's about, this element is really about claiming our power to be an agent of positive change in the world. And a simple example would be, I went to the grocery store a couple of weeks ago, and I was like third in line. There was somebody already at the checkout, and this was a human checkout, not an automatic checkout, right? So this woman was, two in front of me. In between us was a man in a, he had mobility impairment. So he was in the shopping cart that wheels you around, like an automatic electric shopping cart that you get to sit in with the cart in front of you. And he had a handful of items. And then I was behind him. So before I know it, as I'm listening to what's going on, the woman who was at the cash register in front of this gentleman in the electric shopping cart, she paid it forward. She turned around after she paid for her groceries and she paid for this gentleman's groceries. The simple act of kindness. That's all it was. And it was their beautiful, brief, loving, compassionate exchange. Not a lot of fanfare, very simple, but it wasn't transactional, it was just beautiful the way that she offered this and just did it, and the way that he received it. And it's uplifted me ever since I thought about that. And I was like, what a simple thing. How many of you have gone to a restaurant or the grocery store, or here in America, I hear this happens at the drive-through, right? We drive everywhere, right? So the person in front of you pays for your meal sometimes, right? One of those things that happens. So that's just an idea, an example of how that can be put into action. So that's embodying and empowering the prophetic voice. And we talked about selfless service and compassionate action. Let me go up to another one. And a lot of us have talked about this in past times that I've been with you, living a life of simplicity. So in the Mystic Heart, Wayne Teasdale says, a viable spirituality today is socially engaged. It does not turn its back on the sufferings of the world, but squarely faces them and contributes to their mitigation and alleviation. The more outward expressions of the inner journey, the social dimension that is found in all traditions of spirituality, has three important elements: simplicity of life, selfless service, and the prophetic or moral voice. That's the systematic things that we just talked about. These elements of a universal spirituality apply to the fruits of the mystical contemplative life, to the sphere of social concerns and the demands of compassion and love in active society. So Richard Rohr, who's in New Mexico in the US at the Center for Action and Center for Action and Contemplation, points out that one aspect of simplicity is less stuff, which invariably leaves room for more soul. And the statement, live simply so that others may simply live, is an important call to action as we grow and we mature. On the inner level, simplicity means discerning what is essential from what is not, centering our lives on what truly matters. removing the clutter and distractions from our intentions and our attentions, not just our stuff, but from our thinking and from our attention. Author and psychologist Lee Jampolsky says at least 3 times a day, he suggests this, at least 3 times a day, ask yourself, what is really important right now? What's really important right now? And have the wisdom and the courage to discern what that is and build your life around the answer. And what I've found as I've paid more attention to this, I took this as when we got to this part in the class, the idea of simplifying stuff, I felt like I was doing that with all the downsizing I've done to fit in a very small house, a trailer and a tent, and then eventually my very small house of 500 square feet. And I will say I do have a big storage area with way too much stuff in it. I thought, how in the world I could never fill this whole thing, but somehow it's filled. Somehow it's filled to the brim. I'm like, and now the stuff is managing me. Like I got to pay for that stuff, right? In a storage unit.
Right,
So
right,
I'm still working on the stuff side. Where I have made, I think, better progress is on the attention side, where I've chosen to refocus my activities, my scope of activities, and to go deep into what I truly love and what is truly mine to do. And to really pick the right now juiciest things that ignite my love and compassion for everything and everyone. So I've been refocusing my activities. So I don't have as many communities that I'm part of. I'm going deep into. You guys are one of those going deep into. So thank you very much. My community here and the new place that I live, I've prioritized to not spend half my time in Chapel Hill, but to really focus it here in Saxe-Baja and become a deeply embedded community member right here where I live. And that means giving up some other things that I also like and love, but not doing them right now. I might go back to them eventually. So that's the refocusing aspect of it. And all of this has to do with how our divine being expresses, right? We're continuing to refine our expression of the divine, just like in the daily word. Divine love flows through us. How do we help that take form in the physical world, in our minds, in our emotions? And you know where it shows up the most? In our presence, our daily presence at the store, on the metro, on Zoom. You know, how do we move? How do we smile? How do we express, right? This is really what it is. It's not about going out and being, I mean, you can do this, of course. The invitation's there and it's surely needed for social activism here in the US, getting people to vote, right? Getting active in that process. There's so many things that can call our attention, dedication, time, and helping something manifest. It doesn't have to be that though. It could just be a gentle prayers, blessings, energy, whatever it calls to you and your unique gifts, circumstances. But it's about your presence and how you are, your divine presence and how you're helping it be expressed in whatever way. And it's so important. What I'm going to do now is stop the recording or pause the recording and to really see if I can create an experience for you. I'm going to play a video and it's by Richter, R-I-C-H-T-E-R, and it's called Opening Practice. And it's just an experience that I hope you'll allow to touch your heart. So it's kind of a visual meditation.